how they need to play the games forward, right? There must be multiple challenges to change how they work within the organization. How do you tackle that?
Having bootstrapped a business or got the initial investment, when they're scaling, there has to be a common understanding and leveling up.
How do you actually overcome those challenges and let the leaders implement newer changes to their organizations?
That the best way to learn for adults and leaders, on all kind of levels, is really around interactive, gamified approach, which we call simulation. So what simulation means is
what would be the three small things that you think a leader or an organization who is going beyond the obvious and understanding this concept?
Great question. Tip number one.
Most transformation doesn't fail because the technology is wrong. They stall because people never arrive at the same understanding. Our guest today keeps cycling that gap and the space between intention and alignment. One names the resistance, the other designs the experience to resolve it. Not lectures, but simulations. Not top-down answers, but shared tension, debating in real time. Learning by explaining yourself, leading humans and now systems that don't even think like us. Our guest, Rob Thunder and Michael Alf, founding partners of Beyond the Obvious, and this conversation asks what leadership becomes when certainty is no longer the starting point.
So, well, hello, Rob. First of all, how are you?
I'm great. It's been good to be with you today and looking forward to this conversation.
Wonderful to see you. Yesterday was amazing. We talked a lot what exactly is Beyond the Obvious. I'm really glad that you came up with such a good name. But how do you actually get to decide like this would be your brand name, the Beyond the Obvious?
Well, we come from a background of working in executive education with MIT, Columbia Business School, Cambridge Judge, National University of Singapore. And what's clear in most executive education programs is you talk about the principles and how the government client or the bank or the telco needs to transform. But what's often missing is the key challenges of getting the whole organization on board. Of course, with AI, there are so many challenges businesses face. We bring our expertise working across these business schools across different markets. We're based in London, we're based in Lisbon and Singapore. There are ideas and experiences from other markets that we can bring into the region, which are proving very valuable for organizations looking for a different way of tackling their transformation challenges.
And what exactly are the challenges that you faced? You train people who are managers and above level, right? And that's the stage when people move out from the startup zone and enter into being a Series B or Series C or a well-established company, right? So the playbook of being a startup just has ended, and they have to write a new book that how they need to play the games forward, right? So there must be multiple challenges to change how they work within the organization. How do you tackle that, and what are different challenges that you face?
That's a great question. And I think the fundamental point is that having bootstrapped a business or got the initial investment, when they're scaling, there has to be a common understanding and leveling up of skills. So, of course, we expect the IT team, we expect the data teams to be very well advanced in their understanding of AI and the ways to bring that into the organization. But for others, this is less obvious. They'll have their own perspectives, their own ideas. And so the big challenge initially is to get the leadership team up to the same level.
Yes.
This sounds easy, but of course, if they've got their own experiences, they've maybe tried something, they've heard about a new technology, a new way of automating, that's not finding its way to full scale. And why? And the issue here is where you've got big teams, whether you're in a government entity, we work with government clients in Saudi, we work with banks, we work with oil and gas organizations. I've met people here are so frustrated with the big organization resistance they're getting that they're leaving and doing their own thing. This is exactly where we can help. We can get to a point where they understand from different perspectives how the organization needs to be adopting AI. We can overcome resistance. We can get them to that tipping point where they're all on the same page, the resistance falls away. They're then in a position with one voice and one agenda to come together and develop their AI strategy.
And what's your core strategies that you follow? Like, they have to shift to their different strategies, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has to change the strategy as they grow. What
Yeah.
was your strategy while you learned all of this in the years of decades of your experience?
Well, my position is always you've got to start with what's the customer looking for, define that pain point. It sounds very obvious, but you're going to see different pain points depending on who you're talking to in the organization. Which are the pain points that they accept they need to start with? What we then do is assess the maturity of the organization, understand in detail with examples where are those pain points, and we can then design that into the programs that we're delivering. And we'll talk in a few moments. My partner will talk about the products and services we're delivering. But you know, the temptation is to say, hey, we've done a bit of research. This is what we think the market wants. There are so
Yeah.
many differences. Every organization has variables here. So we understand those differences with audits we're doing. We then design those into customized learning experiences, which are far more likely to hit the mark because you're using references, you're using use cases and relevant examples. So when they're developing their use case for AI, that's coming from them rather than us just sharing what we've seen in other organizations. They have a sense of ownership. They feel they're co-creating the solution rather than being told what to do. That's not the way that adults learn.
So you're not just a trainer, it's like you are a companion in this
That's
process, right?
And I would say that's a great question. So it's more around a partnership that we're building. We've been working with our clients for over 10 years. Our relationships with the business schools go back a long way. They work with us because we're quick on our feet. We're able to adapt the content, not just the content itself, but the way that we're addressing it, using the right language, the right use cases from around the world as they're relevant to the GCC. And you know, there's so much excitement and energy here. 120 countries represented here at the Web Summit. So having a global perspective on a challenge that every organization faces brings real value to organizations rather than just looking at it through a more narrow lens.
Wonderful, wonderful. And now we'll explore how these challenges are being solved and what is the strategy that is followed at Beyond the Obvious from Michael, your partner, right? Great. So, Michael, now that we have understood what are the challenges from Rob, uh, how do you actually overcome those challenges and let the leaders implement newer changes to their organizations?
Yeah, so thank you very much. It's a great question. And so, I mean, we've all been through a lot of trainings, education, university. We're all adults with a lot of experience. So the question is then, how do we learn best? And based on our extensive experience, combined decades, we really figured out that the best way to learn for adults and leaders, on all kind of levels, is really around interactive, gamified approach, which we call simulation. So what simulation means is we are putting people into a context where they are going through certain scenarios, they discuss with each other, they are put into a specific situation and they need to resolve that together. This means that they basically need to explain themselves to others. They need to convince and explain to their colleagues. And that's the best way to learn. The best way to learn is actually to teach, and that's part of that. Yeah, so they are doing that in a fun environment, in a gamified environment. So imagine you have you have a group, and you split that into teams. They're competing with each other. That's always a lot of fun. Yeah, everyone is competitive and they want to win. And this is kind of what we are building on. And so based on this experience, we came up with our simulation for generative AI for leaders. And we call that Maverick. And this is now kind of active around the world in at least half a dozen countries with clients, and most importantly, in 3 languages. We started English, then we added German, and now we added also the Arabic version, which is great, especially here for the GCC region. And we see a lot of interest and curiosity in this. And this simulation is not about technology. It's not about tools, because it's actually about how leaders, how adults learn and experience that, what they need to do, and really to understand so that they are all on this same level. So this is kind of really around simulations and how people learn, and is from our experience the best way to do it.
And does it ever occur that the simulation might be challenging for few of the leaders as they have traditional ways to understand things? Was that a challenge for you as well?
That's an interesting perspective you're bringing up. I mean, kind of every method you are using, of course, has its pros and cons.
Yes.
Yeah. But what we find is when people go into this experience, they're really kind of, maybe some have some resistance because they need to be open with their colleagues, and they are challenged. Yeah, there are questions sometimes. So, but what we usually see, they are opening up. Yeah, they're calming down. They're going into this. It's actually fun. Yeah, it's entertaining. So even for the more, let's say, conservative leaders, they're actually embracing that in a very positive way. And I would say, in the modern world, this is just kind of how it's done. Yeah, so it's kind of the old way of, let's say, kind of very strong top-down approach isn't working anymore, and this is really supported by these simulations.
And yes, the managerial levels are very competitive in terms of learning new things and talking about what they learned or what they achieved in terms of gamification with their colleagues itself. But what about leaders? I mean, they have already reached the top level of their organization, and when they're told that you have to be in a simulation and learn more things, and that would be open to all the organization within. So, is there any resistance for the leaders? Because as you on the top level, you try to enclose your books and try to keep a few things on the backpack itself and not expose everything. So, how's it go with the leaders, and how do you train them?
Yeah. So I'd say leaders embrace that. Yeah. So we've done a number of sessions and workshops with CEOs and their leadership teams. That works really well because they know they need to open up to their teams and to embrace that and to integrate actually the perspectives of their teams, their immediate leadership teams, but then also the extended leadership team. What I'd like to kind of shift a little bit is kind of what we see another trend in leadership. And I think that's an important one. When you look at kind of today's situation, and that's moving fast, today's leaders are really in a very different situation. So you have teams to lead, people. But what we see now in the age of AI is that you also have to lead AI and agentic systems. Yeah, so you have a complete different. So what we see is really that they have a new type of entity. So when you think about kind of these new, and they are very new, agentic systems, partially autonomous, that is a very different type of behavior compared to humans. And suddenly you have both integrated into teams. So we have in a team, you have people and you have agents or agentic systems. And the question now becomes, well, how do you lead these new entities? And this is what we call hybrid leadership. They're really combining both aspects, and the hybrid with an AI. So it's an HAI, hybrid leadership. This is what we are researching, working on at the moment, where we developed a framework to help organizations to embrace that, to understand what needs to shift, kind of the thinking, the mindset, but also very operational, what actually needs to change in the day-to-day. So this is a big trend, what we're seeing right now, and where we're really focusing our work in the future.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's wrap it up with last final quick tip from you. What would be the three small things that you think a leader or organization who is going beyond the obvious and understanding this concept should do?
Great question. Tip number one, AI first, which means on every single meeting, you have an agenda item called AI. Even if it's 1 minute only, it really enforces and supports the transition. Rob talked about this tipping point where you have more support than resistance. You have to get there. So that's tip number one. AI on every single agenda. Second one, you have to get your hands dirty. So you have to block time as a leader to explore what is possible. Within weeks and only a few months, things are changing again. Yeah, right now, when we here are in Doha in the Web Summit 2026, Yeah, the whole world talks about malt book. Yeah, again, a completely new phenomenon. You have to have at least an understanding what that means. So you have to get your hands dirty. And thirdly, I would kind of encourage leaders to really tap into the next generation. Go out there, talk to the next generation of the 20s, yeah, in their 20s, and talk to them how they use AI. Because I think that gives you a complete new perspective. So these are my 3 top tips for leaders today.
Wonderful. That was some of the really beyond the obvious thoughts that you have. So thank you so much. You and Rob give us very great insights, and that's all for right now. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.